Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. So the case that we're going to be covering today is of Abhishek Malik of Rohtak, Haryana. So this case, at the time that it happened, it really shook that town in Haryana to the core because it was a case that you would not expect to come out of a town like that. And under the circumstances that everything happened, it was more shocking to everybody than anything else. Now, Abhishek Malik was a 20-year-old boy and he had a very small family. It included his father, Pradeep Malik, also known as Babluji, his mother, Santosh Devi, who was a housewife, and his sister, Neha Malik, who was 1 year younger than him. Abhishek Abhishek's father, he was into property dealing and he was really popular in the area of Rohtak, Haryana. And they made a lot of money. They were one of the wealthiest families in Rohtak, and because of that, his father and all the family always had bodyguards with them because they're always worried about their safety. Because along with making many friends in that business, Babluji had also made a lot of enemies. And he was very aware of that, and he was very caring towards his family, that he knew that he had to protect them. And so he always kept bodyguards with them. And also, another thing he did was he made sure that the whole family always had guns on them whenever they went out, and they knew, each member of the family, they knew how to operate a gun in the case they ever needed to defend themselves in any circumstances. And Babluji, he really loved his kids. He would go to the world and to fulfill all their demands, all their wishes. He would have elaborate parties for them. He would give them a lot of pocket money, and he would just fulfill all their wishes. That anything they ever asked for was done for them. And Abhishek Malik, because he was older and he was also a son, which is a sad reality in itself in India, because sons are given more importance than a daughter, even if the daughter has more to offer. Just because he was born a boy, he was given more importance by the whole family, and the whole family, just everything revolved around Abhishek, and he was their first priority, and they did everything for him, everything to make him happy, everything that he needed was presented to him. And Abhishek Malik was not into the property dealing business at all. He was much more into styling. He was much more into fashion. At some point, he also wanted to be cabin crew member. Now, Babluji, he wanted his son to be an alpha male. So anytime he would see Abhishek with a gun, he would always flaunt his son to his friends. It made him so happy every time that he saw his son with a gun, that he was, being dominant, and he loved that. And then what ended up happening was that Abhishek decided, I want to be a cabin crew, so I'm going to go to Delhi to study and take a course for that. Of course, being his family, they never denied him anything, so he went ahead and he did that course there. And as far as we know from this case, he just finished the course there and then came back to Rohtak, Haryana. He never actually did the job of cabin crew there. So he never actually worked as cabin crew. So once he comes back to Rohtak, Haryana, he starts studying B-commerce in Rohtak, Haryana, and then he was living with his parents. His daily routine consisted of him waking up, having breakfast with his family. Then he would usually go out to lunch, with his friends, and then he would party a lot, which we all are aware that if you have that kind of income and you have that kind of access to money and everything else, of course, any 20-year-old would love to party and enjoy that money. And that's exactly what Abhishek did. As a normal 20-year-old boy, he would just party, and he would have, go out for lunches, go do all these things. And he would also, if you look at his Instagram account, you would see he would really he loved Starbucks, so he would go to Starbucks almost every day, which is very uncommon for a normal person, like an average family in India, to do. But he would do it because he had access to that kind of money. And he also loved shopping, he loved styling, so he was really into a lot of that. So he would go like shopping very frequently, and all of that shows really on his Instagram account to kind of give you an idea of what kind of personality he was. And it shows he was very much into style, very much into, like showing everything off, and all the money and access that he had, it shows clearly on his social media. Okay, and then what ended up happening was, while Abhishek was in Delhi, he had this friend. I'm just, for the privacy reasons for this friend, I'm not going to mention their name. For the story purposes, let's just call him Rohan. Okay, so Rohan and Abhishek had a friendship. Abhishek liked Rohan more than a friend. So Abhishek was gay, and nobody knew about this except him. And he also learned that Rohan also liked him more than as a friend. And then, so they got into this relationship while they were taking the cabin crew course back in Delhi. And they were dating each other. And that, like, when the course ended, it did not stop them from continuing that relationship, because Rohan would often come down from his state of Uttarakhand, which is where he lived and he went back to after he finished the course. So he'd come down to Rohtak, Haryana, and he would often stay with Abhishek's family. And they thought nothing of it. They thought they were just friends, and they got very used to Rohan coming around often and staying for multiple days, multiple weeks at a time. And you could see, if you search online, you could see a lot of the pictures that were posted by media at the time that this case was happening, which was in 2021, that it showed Rohan in some of their pictures of like festivals and stuff. So he was around often, and his parents thought nothing of it. They thought it was just, they were really good friends. Until one day, while Rohan was at their house, him and Abhishek were on the second floor of the house, and they were getting intimate with each other. And his sister walked up and saw all of this. And as soon as she saw all of this, them getting intimate with each other, she basically went and told the parents everything that she saw. And as you can imagine, Babluji being an alpha male, he was furious. He could not understand what was happening. He thought his son had just completely gone off the rails. He did not understand the idea of being gay. As you can imagine, being gay is still a taboo in India, and it's not accepted socially or in society even. It's not even talked about openly, even until now, in small towns of India. It's a taboo even in the larger cities. So you can imagine a small town like Rohtak, it really took its toll on Babluji to find out that his son was involved in something like this. So what he did is he beat his son. He thought his son had just gone off the rails, and I'm gonna beat him. I'm gonna take away all the money access that he has. I'm gonna take away all the luxuries that he has of a car, a motorcycle, all of that. So he took that all away from him, thinking that will fix his son. But as we all know, being gay is not something that you can just get rid of. It's not an illness. It's just the way they are. It's just the way someone is. And Babluji didn't understand that. Unfortunately, what ended up happening then was Abhishek did not get rid of this idea of Rohan from his head. Okay, he became more and more firm that he was gonna be with Rohan. So he made up this plan that him and Rohan, that they would go to Europe and settle there, and eventually even get married if Abhishek has gotten a sex change surgery to basically make him into a female. Which Abhishek was ecstatic about. He was ready to get that surgery done to be with Rohan. He could not see anything other than Rohan at that point. He was so obsessed with the idea of being with him. Then basically what ended up happening was, when Abhishek was not stopping from his contact with Rohan. His father again, he found out that Abhishek was asking them for money, which was 5 lakhs. When he found out that money was for the sex change surgery, he went furious. Babluji beat Abhishek again, thinking he's gonna fix him. If he's strict with him, his son is gonna come back and he's gonna be fixed. So he beat him again, and once he found out about the money and what it was for. And then he thought, Abhishek is really close with his nani. So I'm gonna get his nani to talk to him and maybe put some sense into his head, okay? So his nani comes over, stays at their house, and then they have this conversation, which is what we heard from the news reports. So what happened was, when his nani was there on August 7th, 2021, Abhishek, according to his statement to the police, said he had breakfast with his family. He then went to pick up a friend from the hotel. They then went to eat, then went to party with some other friends, and then he goes back and drops a friend off at the hotel, and he comes home around 2 p.m. And he's ringing the doorbell and no one is opening the door. His mom's not opening the door, which is very unusual. So he calls up his mom. The phone is ringing, but no one answers it. He then calls up his dad and the phone is ringing, no one answers it. He then calls up his sister. The phone again is ringing, but no one is answering the phone. And he says that made him really worried and anxious. And he waited around 5 to 10 minutes and no one opened the door or answered their phones. Then he called his uncle, his mamaji, which is from his sister's side. His mom's side. That's her brother. So he calls him. He lets him know, hey, I'm calling everyone. Like, no one's answering the phone. I'm getting really worried. And because his uncle heard the worry in his voice and how anxious he was like, you know what, like try to break the door open. And he also had called his neighbor as well, like they're not opening the door, like what should I do? So by the time that Abhishek was trying to break open the door, his neighbor got there and they both finally broke open the door. And what they saw just left them in complete shock. Okay, they saw the bodies of his whole family dead, drenched in their own blood. This was Abhishek's first statement to the police. Okay, his statement, every time they questioned him, his statement changed. Okay, what actually happened that day was that Abhishek planned the murders of his family. Okay, he wanted to get rid of them because they were the only people coming in between him and Rohan getting together and going to Europe and getting married and him getting a sex change to be with Rohan. So what he did that day instead was, he was home that day. He had breakfast with his family. He then goes up to the second floor of the house where his sister was in her room. Okay, he goes and as soon as he enters the room, he turns up the volume on the TV so that it's really loud and no one can hear anything of what's going on in the house. Before his sister could even figure out what was happening, before poor Neha could even figure out what was about to happen to her, he shot her point blank in the head. And she laid there bleeding. He then goes downstairs and he tells his Nani that I learned how to play. So that Nani is his grandmother. He tells her, I learned how to play a new song on the guitar. Come, I want to play it for you and you can listen to it. So of course she goes with him, not thinking anything much, to the sister's room and he shoots her. He shoots his grandmother as well. Okay. So she falls dead to the ground there. He then goes downstairs again. And his mom asked him, "Where is your grandmother?" He said he doesn't know. Maybe she's upstairs. So the mother then goes upstairs to look for the grandmother and his sister. And then when she walks into the room, what she sees is two bodies drenched in blood. She then turns around to look back because she was completely shocked as to what she was seeing. She turns around to look back and she says, she sees Abhishek pointing the gun right at her, and he shoots her point blank right there. Before she even figures out or says anything, he shoots her and she falls to the ground dead. And this is all happening in their house while his dad was in his room on his phone, not knowing that there were 3 dead bodies in the house right now and that Abhishek was on a killing spree. He then goes downstairs to his dad's room, sits beside him, shoots his dad point blank, and then shoots him one more time to make sure that Babluji is dead. Once he does that, he leaves the house. He goes and picks up Rohan from a hotel. They go to a local restaurant, eat, and then they party. And then he comes back and drops Rohan at the hotel. And the video that you see of him accessing the hotel is so chilling because you would never be able to tell that this is a person who's just killed their whole family. Like, he's so calm, so composed. Like, the video is so chilling to watch it and know what he's done, and then he's acting like nothing's happened. He's so calm. Like, there's no sort of emotion on his face for his family. He was so blind in love with Rohan. And what ended up happening then is, the police, so he pretty much drops, after he parties, he drops Rohan home. He says he goes home. According to the police report, he then goes home and he starts his act, which is of, oh, my parents are now opening the door. He called his uncle and him and the neighbor break in to find the dead bodies. And if you see the videos of the news media at the time, you will see how he's acting. Like, you actually start to feel sorry for him until you know that he's the one that's done this. So before the police initially found out that Abhishek was the main suspect, they had everyone on their suspect list, like the uncle, the neighbor, everyone. And when they were questioning the neighbor, they pretty much asked him, like, did you know they had any enemies? Like, who were the enemies? Anything unusual happening in the house? And the neighbors told the police, they were like, they had a lot of arguments, and most of the arguments revolved around Abhishek. And that's why the police questioned him 3 times, and the 3rd time when they questioned him, he confessed to everything that he had done, and he told them this whole story that he had done it to be with Rohan. And Rohan, guys, so Abhishek is of course taken into jail and he's there right now. We don't know how long he's serving as of right now, or whether this case has been done and he's been given a sentence. But all we know is that he's still in prison. He's gonna be there a long time. And this person that he did everything to be with, Rohan, he is happily married to a girl today. Okay? While Abhishek took away the lives of his whole family for this person, he has moved on with his life, is living a normal life, married a girl. He's gone on with his life, and Abhishek is sitting in a jail cell. Now, I wanted to cover this case, guys, because this case really showed me, sometimes we can give a lot of access to our kids, and we think financially giving them access to things, money, is everything, but we also need to understand our kids. We need to talk to our kids to know what's going on in their heads. We need to socially, yes, it's not easy to accept someone as gay, especially in a rural area like Rohtak, Haryana. But there is ways to have conversation about it. You know, there's ways to go about it. Abhishek should have given his family time and, you know, to accept him. He should have. And there's so many resources, so many organizations right now that you can use to to help your family understand what being gay means. And I wish he had used some of those resources. I wish he had, you know, tried to talk to his family calmly and maybe try to explain to them that this is not an illness, this is the way I am. And to think that someone of 20 years of age who had his whole life ahead of him would do something like this is completely unexcusable. Like, how do you come up with this plan against your own family and use the same very weapon that your family taught you to use for self-protection, for self-defense in the case someone attacked you? And now they got attacked with the same weapon and their lives got taken away because of the skill that they gave you, that they got you to learn to save your life. So it's actually a very, very tragic ending to this case, and I hope you guys enjoyed it, enjoyed listening to it, and maybe took away a thing or two from this case, you know, that you guys learned. You know, these cases, I feel like the more we discuss cases that happen in our society, around us, you know, anywhere in the world, if we can learn a thing or two from them, it's for the better of everyone. If we can better ourselves as a society to prevent these cases, to maybe be more open to listening to our kids, then some of these things can hopefully be prevented. And also, guys, I did want to mention, I don't post, so I did not use Rohan's real name because right now he has a normal life. I don't want people going after him. I don't want to take away from his identity because he was not criminally charged with anything. So I don't want to interrupt his life in any way by putting his pictures or anything like that there. But they are, if you search, they are there. You can look at them, that he's married. Also, I don't use any pictures in my case discussions on YouTube here, just out of the respect for the victims. I don't want to use the pictures because I don't feel that they need to be used in order to tell the story. But again, as I said, everything is available if you guys do want to go look at the pictures and the footage from that the media covered of these events. Again, guys, please do comment, like, share, and subscribe. And maybe you guys can leave in the comments what other cases you would like me to cover and you would like me to research on. And guys, these videos are unedited, raw, unfiltered, because I want you guys to feel how vulnerable these victims were. That's how vulnerable I want to make these videos. I want to make them raw, unfiltered, unaudited, just specifically focusing on the case that we're discussing. Okay, and I love you guys. Hope you guys have a good week ahead, and take care, everyone.